starters, my name is Eric. I'm a service writer here at Laidlaw's. Been on two wheels for the majority of my life. It kind of all started with my father. Into like cycling and stuff like that. So when we were younger, him, my brother, my sister, and myself, we would do rides all the time to like the beach from our house. With me being like super young, he would start us, different increments. There was a spot in Long Beach, unload the bicycles, then we'd ride from there. And then before you knew it, we were riding from Cerritos to the beach. And then fast forward a little bit down the road, when me and my brother got into like middle school and high school, we started growing like a really big interest in dirt bikes. And that was kind of foreign to like my father and my mother. They were, obviously scared because now you're putting a motor inside of a bike pretty much on two wheels. So it took some convincing for sure. But after a while, my brother got his first bike, and then it'd be me and my father and my brother, we'd be going out, kind of just testing the waters, whether it was El Mirage, Barstow and stuff like that. And then soon after that, convinced my dad to let me get my own. Started off on an XR80, cool little bike, kind of got me into it and stuff like that. And then soon after, it kind of progressed to where I wanted to start racing. This is fast forward, late middle school, like early high school. Begged my mom to co-sign a 2015 YZ250F. And then, started hitting the track with my mom, have her up at 5, 6 a.m., take me to Milestone, Lake Elsinore, Glen Helen, whatever the case may be. And I did that, had a lot of fun with it, but after a while, started growing like a little bit more interest into getting onto the street. I never had anyone in my family that was like into Harleys per se. I had some cousins that were into street bikes and stuff like that, but never Harleys. To be honest with you, even neighbors and stuff like that, I didn't know anyone who was into Harleys, so I kind of looked into it more and once again tugged on my mom's shoulder and begged her to co-sign my first bike, which was a XL 1200. Cool bike, kind of got used to the road and stuff like that. Started off just around the neighborhood, going to work. But to be honest with you, I was extremely scared to even leave like Orange County or LA County. I only put, I think it was like 2,000 miles on that bike that year. Soon after that, I rode one of my buddy's Dynas, and as you know, once you ride a bigger bike, you kind of get influenced into wanting a bigger bike. I came across a Billiard Blue Street Bob. Good baseline for a bike and stuff like that. 107, extremely powerful. Now they have the 114s in them, but at that time it was in 2019, so it's still the 107. Got the bike, was kind of super green to all the different modifications and stuff that I could have done to it, but I got it dialed in. I'll just take weekend cruises, whether it's down south to San Diego. Up north, I visited a buddy out in Bakersfield when he was working out there. What kind of really threw me into doing long distance and such, maybe a month before Sturgis, 3 weeks before Sturgis, some of my buddies were in talks of going, but I had never even considered it. I mean, that was kind of taboo to me, like a 1,500 mile trip on a motorcycle, like that was just absolutely insane. And like I said, I never had anyone in my family that was into Harleys, and they hit me up and they're like, hey man, like, do you want to go? There might be some spots, open. And they're like, no, you'll be fine, just bring clothes and such. So I had never taken a long trip like this, never had to pack for something like this. I brought pretty much all my possessions because I didn't know where to limit myself. So I had, saddlebags just packed on each side of this street bob, and then I had a huge backpack that was strapped onto the sissy bar, and I didn't even end up needing like 3/4 of it. I wore maybe 2 shirts, wore like the same pair of pants for like 2 or 3 days. Might have reworn a pair of underwear, I don't know. But yeah, I didn't end up needing all that, and it ended up being an extreme blast. That kind of kick-started the whole next year and a half of, kind of what I've been living so far. That brought me to this. When I got home from Sturgis, I kind of told myself, time to start something new. I had fun on this Softail. It was a great bike. Honestly, I missed that thing, but there were just, some other things that I wanted to explore, and the Roadglide was what was going to take me there. So I think it was like a week, 2 weeks after Sturgis, I traded in, got this thing, and then 2 days after I got it, I was already getting my 1K service because I took a trip to, I think it was Phoenix, to visit some friends. And so I've had this bike for about 14 months now, and I have 43,346 miles on it so far. And yeah, that's within that 14-month time span. I've done multiple trips back to Phoenix to visit some friends. Obviously down to San Diego, that's like a quick weekend one. Through Zion, Flagstaff over to Zion. I did that with one of the technicians in the back and some other buddies. We took that trip. It was really cool. this is it. This is the bike that took me all over the place. Just want to show you a few of the things that I did. First and foremost, it is a 2020 Roadglide special. A lot of people ask the question, you know, why'd you choose the Roadglide versus a Street Glide? Do you prefer one fairing over the other? I do. Just coming from like a motocross background and really like being able to throw around the handlebars, just because on dirt bikes it's like a little bit lighter. Even on like my Street Bob and my Sportster and stuff like that, it's, you know, a lot lighter. When you get the Street Glide fairing on the top, I personally feel like, I don't know if it's just preference or whatever the case may be, I feel like you can kind of feel that weight a little bit, and when you're going through, you know, some canyons, whatever the case may be, I just like to have the least amount of drag as possible when I'm trying to get around turns and stuff like that. So I ultimately, you know, settled down with the Roadglide. I was working for Harley-Davidson at the time, so I kind of had the opportunity to test ride the two to see which one felt better. And again, like I said, I settled with the Roadglide. First thing I did to the bike was I changed out the bars. I went with the Kraus Wolf 1 Pro Kit. It gives you the top tree, comes with their fork lock. I have 10-inch pullback risers. Comes 1.5 inches back with the ODI podium bar up top. It's considered a mid-bend, so it puts my setup at 14.5 overall. I find it extremely comfortable, sits me exactly where I need to be. Doesn't put me over my shoulders, so if I need to get aggressive in a canyon or whatever the case may be, it's the perfect setup, and I have no complaints whatsoever. And like I said, that fork lock that they have on there is super convenient, push button, so you don't lose that added security that you have when you remove the ignition. So again, I really like that. And the gauge relocation kit, I have it seated perfectly to where I can see my screen, and right below that my gauges, so I don't lose any sort of visibility, you know, regardless of where I'm sitting. From there, I went from the stretch bags that come on it to standard bags. I just didn't want to risk, you know, scraping them in turns. So I went ahead and changed that, and I like the look a little bit better, especially when you get into the 2-in-1 exhaust pipes, just so you don't have an empty cutout on the left side when you get rid of the stock exhaust. And speaking in regards to a 2-in-1, brings me to my exhaust pipe. It's a HPI, the short one. They have a full length and then the short one. I really like this pipe. I feel like they have a very controlled sound. Sounds very good, loud enough so cars hear you when you're coming down the road. I don't have any motor work done yet, but when I do, I'm, you know, sure that this pipe's going to provide a great platform for an exhaust. So I'm extremely happy with it. I have about, I think, 35,000 miles on this pipe now, and it hasn't given me any problems. So yeah, horsepowering done me good. Moving on from there, once I had that all dialed in terms of control and sound, I moved on to suspension. That's where I came with the Öhlins 044s with the remote reservoir bracket from Big Bear Choppers. Again, I kind of had an opportunity to ride both, you know, Legends, Öhlins. I've ridden a few bikes with Russ Rienemont. Those are all great companies by far. I had Progressive on my Street Bob, but in terms of the remote reservoirs and the shocks that I wanted to put on this bike, I was pretty settled with the Öhlins, and I've been nothing but happy with them. They're with me on my whole trip. They've been with me on a countless number of trips so far. No problems at all. An extreme variation of adjustability that you can reach with these. So regardless of whether you have a passenger, or you're riding by yourself, if you're doing canyon riding, if you have, you know, a tour pack on there, whatever the case may be, you can adjust these shocks to where they need to be. High flow intake from Screaming Eagle. Kept it pretty simple. I like the look of that one. Very sleek, doesn't get in the way of my knee. You know, when I'm riding, and provides everything I need. I just have a Screaming Eagle tuner on there. It's compensated pretty good for the pipe and the intake, so I have no complaints there. That would kind of wrap it up. And like I said, a lot of the modifications that I've done, they were just, you know, semi-minor, nothing too major, just to kind of get me to where I wanted to be. And then I focused, you know, the majority of my time on really just riding it. And like I said, all the parts on there, I have no complaints at all. I've had the opportunity, luckily, to ride, you know, a bunch of different bikes with a bunch of different things on it, you know, from working here, from, you know, having buddies that have different setups and all that. And what I have right now, it's worked out for me great. I have, you know, once again, no complaints, and, you know, each one to their own, but with what I have, I'm super happy with it, and the Roadglide has never let me down. There's some really comfortable street glides out there, but if you're gonna ask me again and again, I'm gonna tell you, you know, the shark nose fairing is what I'm gonna stick with. kind of the ultimate trip that I'm like extremely proud of. It had always been a huge goal of mine to make it to the East Coast, and it's been about 2 months now. 2 months ago, it was the month of August. I took off whole month of August. I had the opportunity to go, and I did. I didn't have any plans. I didn't know where I was going to stay. I knew, some people here and there. Woke up on July 30th, took my time leaving. Probably should have left earlier in the morning, but I had no plans. I had nowhere to be. So I woke up, took off at like noon or 1 after having lunch with a friend, and made it from here to Northern California. And then fast forward through the trip, Northern California to Seattle, all the way across northern Montana, pretty close to up by Canada, passed through Glacier National Park. It was cool, a little bit smoky because of the fires, but nevertheless, it was an absolute awesome experience. I met some really great people on that trip, but dropped down to Sturgis, over to Wisconsin. I visited the Harley Museum. It was quite awesome. If you ever get a chance, I would really do so, and Milwaukee's just an awesome city all around. From there, down and around to Detroit, visited my brother because he was on the road. The military, Ohio, over across to New York, and that's kind of where everything became like surreal, because you're going across the Midwest and stuff, and you're hitting like a lot of plains, and you'll hit like some mountains in here, and you'll get some rain and stuff like that. By the way, always pack rain gear. You're gonna hit rain wherever you go, I guarantee you. Once I hit the East Coast, it was just like I looked at my phone, I looked at the map and scrolled out, and I was like, man, I'm like a long way from home right now. And like I called my dad and called my mom, and I was like, you guys would not believe where I'm at on 2 wheels right now. It's just insane going from a kid who was scared to ride a Sportster out of the city that I lived in to being all the way across the country. It's honestly just surreal, and it kind of, you take a step back and you realize how far you've come in the 4 years that you've been riding, 4 or 5 years, and it's just really cool to be submerged in something like that. I started cutting back west, made it from New Jersey to Knoxville, Tennessee, stayed there a night, Nashville, down to New Orleans, had a ton of fun down there. New Orleans was like really like the last major spot that I wanted to hit. I had never been there, and it just always seemed super cool. So took advantage of that, rode through Texas, woke up one morning and I came home, and I completed a 27-day trip. It was 9,740 miles, 40.7 miles, just under 10,000. But yeah, by that time I was ready to get home, But when you're experiencing every single mile that you're covering, it's crazy. And like the people that you're gonna meet, I was by myself. It was just a matter of, walking into a restaurant or just going into a common place and, hoping that you find some friendly faces. And I can guarantee you that if you do take that endeavor, you will meet some friendly faces. Montana, Tennessee, New Jersey, a few of the spots where I met some really cool people. If you ever get the chance to do that, do it. And even if it's not across the country, because I know that's kind of a long endeavor, and that's a lot of time to be away from, whether it's work, family, whatever the case may be. Just get out and ride. That's like my biggest thing. That's kind of what I like press towards my friends and stuff. I've created some lifelong experiences that I'll absolutely never forget. Opened my eyes to a lot of things that I wouldn't have known. I do want to do a trip through the snow, maybe not like a blizzard, but whether it be Mammoth or just somewhere in Northern California or even Utah. I feel like that'd be pretty cool just to kind of get an experience and go through some cold and stuff like that. So I have a few ideas for some builds that I might want to do in the future, but right now, this is it. This is the Traveler, this is the Grocery Getter, this is the Get to Work and Backer. I had a truck for a while, but I never drove it. It was collecting dust, and I'd have to move it all the time for the street sweeper, so I sold it. So this is it. Whether it's, to the store, to the gym, running errands, if I have to bring my mom flowers, I better hope that the pedals don't fly off when I'm riding this thing, because this is all I got. And whatever I have to get, it's going to fit in the saddlebags. If I have to buy someone a new mattress, I mean, we're going to figure it out.